The storm rolled in just after midnight, one of those pounding southern tempests that rattles the windows and makes you wonder if the shingles will still be on your roof by morning. When I stepped outside at sunrise to inspect the damage, I didn't expect to find anything unusual, maybe a fallen branch, maybe a few shingles blown loose. But what I didn't expect was a solid, gray rectangle poking through the torn-up grass near the edge of my lawn. At first, I thought it was just some old landscaping stone churned up by the rain. Edges, corners, a perfectly formed concrete slab that absolutely did not belong there. And that's when the real story began. Now, folks watching, stay right here with me. This one turns into something bigger than a piece of concrete. And if you enjoy these real-life HOA stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from down in the comments. The more I cleared the mud, the more I realized this slab wasn't small. It was at least 4 feet wide. The storm had carved a trench across my lawn, pulling the sod with it and revealing something that looked deliberately placed. The edges were smooth, the corners sharp. This wasn't random debris. I called over my neighbor, Jim, a retired contractor who knows more about concrete than I know about my own breakfast. He crouched down, tapped the surface, and gave me a long, slow stare. "That's not new," he said, "but it's not old either. Maybe 25, 30 years tops." Well, that caught my attention, because the neighborhood was built 32 years ago. The HOA was formed around the same time, and nothing in the original property files, at least nothing I'd ever seen, mentioned any kind of slab buried in this area. Rising action. I ran inside, grabbed my old documents, and spread them across the kitchen table. The original survey showed nothing under the lawn. No structures, no utilities, nothing. My property line went straight through that area without so much as a note. But there it was, a hidden slab, underground, on my land. Now, I've lived in this neighborhood long enough to have seen the HOA pull their share of fast ones. Fines for mailbox colors. Threats over a flagpole. Letters about lawn height that read like Supreme Court summonses, but burying concrete on someone's property without telling them. That was a new level. And as if on cue, right around noon, just as I was pacing around the hole, the HOA president herself, Marilyn, the woman who treats every rule like it's etched in stone, marched across the street. Conflict. She was wearing her usual power walk outfit, visor included, as if she were storming Normandy Beach instead of my lawn. "I saw the mess from the road," she said. "You'll need to repair the damage quickly. The HOA standards require all lawns to be restored within 72 hours. I stared at her, then I stared at the slab, then I stared back at her. "Marilyn," I said, "you want to tell me why there's concrete buried under my lawn?" She froze. And folks, I mean froze. Come back. Well, I am not the type to let something slide just because someone waves a rulebook in my face. I decided to get answers. And if the HOA wasn't going to give them to me willingly, I'd find them myself. I rented a small concrete scanner from a local equipment shop. It wasn't fancy, but it could detect metal, pipes, voids, anything that wasn't concrete. When I ran the scanner over the slab, it beeped like crazy near the back corner. There was something underneath, something metal. Now, I wasn't about to bust up the thing myself, so I called a local excavation guy I'd used years ago. He owed me a favor. The concrete cracked open like an eggshell. Rising action. Inside was a rusted, old lockbox, the kind you'd expect to see in an old Western movie, not under a suburban lawn. We pried it open with a screwdriver. Inside were papers, lots of them, old minutes from early HOA meetings before everything was digital. And one document sealed in a plastic sleeve, dated 31 years ago. It showed the HOA had once planned to build a maintenance shed right where my house now stands. They poured the foundation, the concrete slab, but the project was scrapped after budget problems. Instead of removing it, the HOA simply buried the slab under a thin layer of soil, divided the lot, and sold the land anyway. And here's the kicker. The buried slab extended 6 feet over the property boundary, onto what is now my lawn. The HOA knew. They'd known the whole time. And they'd sold homeowners land that was never properly cleared. PAYOFF. Armed with the documents, I walked straight into the next HOA meeting. It was held in Marilyn's living room, which was decorated with more rules taped to the walls than family photos. When I placed the folder on the coffee table, Marilyn's face tightened like she'd bitten into a lemon. "This," I said, Tapping the plastic sleeve is proof the HOA buried construction waste under my property and never disclosed it. And now you're trying to find me for the storm, revealing your mess. The room went silent. Even the old clock on her wall seemed to stop ticking. I continued, I'm not here for money. I'm not here for drama. But I'll tell you this, if the HOA ever threatens me over lawn conditions again, I'll be happy to share all of this with every homeowner, the county inspector, and anyone else who might be curious about hidden slabs. Marilyn swallowed hard. We will adjust the records, she whispered. Good, I said, and clean up the rest of that slab. It's yours, not mine. The following week, the HOA quietly hired a crew. They removed the slab, repaired my lawn, and miracle of miracles never bothered me about grass height again. Folks, if you've ever dealt with an HOA trying to hide their own mistakes, you know exactly how satisfying this moment was. And if you enjoyed the story, please like the video, subscribe for more, and let me know where you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Thank you for spending time with me today.